Shalom, Yasharallah. This your brother Dawud coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise unto YAHAWAH, BAHASHIM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHIM, Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of great millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, I can pushing this truth and sincerity in the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to jump into this here topic dealing with basically the so-called Native American Indians, the so-called Latino tribes, dealing with the Northern Kingdom, because a lot of our people, are coming into this here truth. You have these black only or basically these black Hebrew Israelites, all right, where they want to say that the Israelites are black people only. They're going on to this thing, just skin color only or whatever, whatnot. But nevertheless, I want to bring out, some things on the Northern Kingdom, and touch on that, and going into, these are the children of Israel. All right. So I want to go into basically a little bit of history of how they got over here, because this is one of the mysteries of the world. You have Christopher Columbus and them coming over here, the so-called white men. They said they discovered the new world. They came to the so-called new world where nobody had ever dwelt before, but nevertheless, when they got here, that's the story that they tell you. They came to this new world. Nobody was supposed to be over here, but when they got here, there was already people over here. All right. They were the so-called Indians, but nevertheless, the so-called Indians and the Latino tribes, they was already over here. All right. But nevertheless, sometimes people have, the question of where did those people come from, and they'll be like, well, because of, up in Alaska, Alaska is pretty close to Russia. They could have just walked across a frozen landmass, from Russia to Alaska, which really isn't that far apart. They could just, walk across and they could migrate on down throughout time, but nevertheless, that's not how they got over here. All right. And, there's other scenarios in the Bible, like when you talk about Solomon, right? How Solomon used to send his ships out and they would come over here. They tell you the time it would take, to come over here and come back, the whole journey, they would be bringing certain things back. I believe it was peacocks and, I want to say peacocks is like one of the only things. Peacocks and something else is like one, you can only find that over here, and they wind up going back over there, bringing them back over there, and sometimes when they talk about statues like the Olmecs and things like that, like, oh, well, these people were ancient people. They just disappeared or whatever, whatnot. Like, well, why do they all got Jake features? And then also, like I said, or like the scriptures say, back in those days, Solomon knew about this here land over here. They was sending ships over here. All right. So how, and they was getting things from over here. So they could have wound up, making those statues or whatever over here. You know what I'm saying? Also, the so-called Native Americans and the so-called Latino tribes, they could have made them over here as well because they had the same features as well. Also, maybe not into modern days today because of a lot of the mixing, with the seed, just like a lot of us so-called Negroes don't have full Negro features, When you see these light-skinned Negroes, we'll call them sometimes red bones or yellow, whatever, whatnot. When you see, Jake that look like that, you know what I'm saying? Hey, somewhere down their line, they've been mixed too. You see what I'm saying? So we're not going to all look the same. If that was the case, we would all be, pretty much my complexion, more or less to say, you know what I'm saying? But we all not like that, So just like how we was mixed and our color wound up changing and stuff like that, the same with them, all right? Just like, like the parable of wheat and the tares, you can't just go looking at people off of their skin color like the T and the Tamara twins. They look like Jake, you know what I'm saying? But they're not Jake at all. Tracy Ellis Ross, or really Diana Ross and all her kids. You know what I'm saying? Well, I think Diana Ross got one child by Jake, but really all her other kids, the chick Tracy Ellis Ross. You see her on that show, I think it's called Blackish, but her father is a so-called white man. All right, the boy in ATL, or was it ATL with Big Boy and T.I.? Yeah, I think it was ATL. T.I. little brother in the movie ATL. All right, that's Diana Ross's son. All right, but see, that's an Edomite. All right, you would think that these is Jake's, they Edomites. All right, but based off of their skin color, they look just like Jake. All right, and then you have on the flip side Mariah Carey. She looked like a straight up Edomite. All right, but that's a Jake. Her father's a so-called black man. So we're not going off of skin color. All right, so whether the so-called Native Americans, they look how they look now, or they look like how, like a so-called dark-skinned man, and if you really know anything about, and really a lot of this come from these so-called Negroes who's not really around the Northern Kingdom like that. Because if you was actually growing up around these people, knowing them as friends and their families and their grandparents, like you could literally look at their generations and be like, that's definitely our people, man. You might just know one or two, but if you know a whole lot of these people, you'll see different signs and traits. It's like, yo, that's Jake. They get down exactly how first of all, they get down exactly how we get down. But a physical appearance of these people, you'll be able to see them and look at these people. They look exactly like how we look, man. Their grandparents and stuff, they be real dark like us, having afros and stuff like us, big nigga noses, nigga lips and stuff like that. So come on, man. The only reason they look like they look now is because they, been mixed with the so-called white man so much. All right. But let me get into this here lesson dealing with the so-called Native Americans and the Latino tribes. All right. Because these are our people. And it was, how do I say, written about in the scriptures. But what here in the Apocrypha was taken out because it how do I say, reveals so much stuff in there. All right. And this is going back into, you hear the term where they say the lost tribes of the children of Israel, the 10 lost tribes of the lost tribes of Israel. All right. When they always talk about that, they say those things because of why? The northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, they were separated from well, basically after Solomon, right? You had Solomon's sons, they wound up splitting the kingdom. All right. Then you had what? The northern and the southern kingdom. All right. The northern kingdom wound up going into captivity. All right. First. And then, well, we're going to read that account, but they wound up going into captivity first. They were separated from the southern kingdom, Benjamin, Judah, and Levi. Right. That's why you hear a lot of the times in the Bible, you hear about so-called Jews and things like that. That's talking about the southern kingdom. All right. But never, like when the Lord was on the scene, it was mainly just them over there. All right. The northern kingdom was already removed. All right. They would have already been, well, we're going to get to where they would be at. All right. So, let me see. Let me read this first. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 13 verse 12. It's a lot. 2nd Ezra chapter 13 verse 12. It says, afterwards I saw the same man come down from the mountain and call unto him another peaceable multitude. Now this man is talking about YAHAWASHI, right? And it says, and there came much people unto him, whereof some were glad, some were sorry, some of them were bound, some brought of them that were offered. And then I was sick and through great fear, and I awaked and said, all right. So basically, this is a vision that Ezra is seeing. All right. But nevertheless, you're going to get the interpretation of these things. All right. So this is one thing he wound up seeing was this another great peaceable multitude. All right. Being that this is a whole different group of people that he's normally used to seeing. Because why? Well, we're going to get it right down here. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 13 verse 21. It says, the interpretation of the vision shall I show thee, and I will open unto thee the things that thou hast required. Let me jump down. Verse 25. This is the meaning of the vision, whereas thou sawest a man come up from the midst of the sea. So going into 2nd Ezra chapter 13, when you read it all the way through, there's a vision that takes place. All right. Basically, it's this is descriptive of, when you read up at the top above this is descriptive of the movie Independence Day. All right. When they see that big ass ship come out of the clouds and shit like that, and they on top of that building, and then they get zapped with the laser lights. That's what you're reading here in 2nd Ezra chapter 13 at the top. All right. Starting from the top on down, that's going into that vision. At a certain point in time in that vision, Ezra's asked for the interpretation of it, and the Most High give him the interpretation of it. There's a part of the vision which I read about this other great multitude, peaceable multitude of people that he saw in this here vision. All right. So now we're going to go straight just to that breakdown of just that part. All right. So it says, give me 1 second. This 2nd Ezra chapter 13 verse 39. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him. All right. Now this is going to be basically the Lord's people. All right. He just gathering them back up because why? They would be scattered everywhere. All right. Verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes. All right. So this is that great mystery and that secret to where the lost tribes of Israel. All right. Because whenever you hear that phrase, the lost tribes of Israel, they only talking about the northern kingdom. All right. Because the southern kingdom, they would know for the most part, the world know where they would be at. All right. That, from 78, like when the Lord was on the scene, they knew where they was at. We knew who we were in that captivity. All right. But after that, in 70 AD, we wound up going, we in the captivity we at now, we wound up losing who we were. But however, we wasn't necessarily the lost tribes. All the way up until that time, it was only, like I said, the southern kingdom. So the other 10 tribes was already gone from way back when, before we went into Babylon, they was already gone. Before we went into Medo-Persia, they was already gone. Before we went into Grecian, Empire, they was gone. Before we went to the Roman Empire, they was gone. So this whole time, the 10 tribes was already gone and lost. They was basically, they wasn't even on that side of the globe at that point in time. So then when you put this in perspective, they'd be like, yo, where did the rest of the tribes at? They're the so-called lost tribes. So when you see and you hear these different things, all right, you'll understand these, you'll understand. Hang on one second. Let me see if I can find something. All right, I had to look something up. Now, this is a place that's kind of like close to kind of like where I live at, right? This is a place called Emerson Point, all right? Now, this here place, right, is it's basically like a Native American reserve part. Maybe I can get some pictures. But nevertheless, when you pull up to this here place, you see these here signs, all right? It says, oh, let me go back. This here sign that you see in the middle, let me see if I can make it bigger. It says Trail of the Lost Tribes. All right. So again, now you see this here image on the side. If you can notice what this here image is, it's a Native American head with an arrow going through it. All right. So as you see here, this here sign is letting you know, all right, that this is a Native American territory. Let me go back. All right. Like I said, this is the sign that you see when you approach it. Here's some of the images, and like I said, they have these different signs where they tell you about some of the people here, whatever, whatnot, you know. You read these different signs, but this is basically a habitation of basically how the natives was living, all right? The so-called natives was living, all right? And here's a map of their property and stuff like that. Nice waterfront. Hey, they got some real nice, beautiful land out here, man. All right, it's all preserved. Where they preserved it now, it's pretty much untouched, all right? Let me see. Let me go back up. Give me 1 second. Okay, so here it is right here, some more images of the actual so-called reserve. So as you can see, this is Native American land here, all right? And like I showed you that sign at the front when you first pull in, all right? This is, the island. Like I said, this is, you drive in on this here island and everything like this. This whole little strip, this is all, where the Native Americans would be living at back in the days, all right? There's actually buildings over there, old building remains and things like that, all right? You can see the Skyway Bridge from there, all these different things. But the point here I wanted to pull out from this here place was this here sign. All right, it clearly tells you when you pull up to this here place that it says the Trail of the Lost Tribes. But you have to be able to put these things together. All right, you have to be able to connect the dots, because they're not going to say the Trail of the Lost Tribes of Israel. You have to understand that phrase, the Lost Tribes. All right, because we all know what tribe is, right? Tribe is a group of people. But what do you mean by the Lost Tribes? That's a term that's only given into a certain group of people. All right, the people that was basically in the scriptures, the Israelites. All right, because of what would happen to them. All right, when you follow through the scriptures in the Bible, you would understand that the northern kingdom wasn't with the southern kingdom throughout the majority of the Bible. That when you're reading them going through like when you start going through the prophets, right? You start going through Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, all of them. They wasn't, they was pretty much like in the land of Babylon and stuff like that. All right, so the northern kingdom was already taken off at this point in time. All right, so I wanted to bring this here out to show you that here in Florida, right where we at, and then also a lot of the places around here is called DeSoto this and DeSoto that, Fort DeSoto, Cortez, you got like DeSoto Speedway, DeSoto Mall, DeSoto Road, DeSoto Bridge, Cortez Road, Cortez Highway, and these are people, Hernando DeSoto and Hernando DeSoto and Hernan Cortez. These are some of these Edomites who pretty much came over here and started conquering the land in the Native Americans. All right, they have a lot of statues and things up over for these people. All right, then you have in Ybor, Florida. They have a parade called the Gasparilla Parade. All right, if you ever go to the Gasparilla Parade, I believe it's like 3 different parades. They have a kids parade. They have a parade on like the bay, and then they have a night parade. All right. Now the parade on the bay is like a bunch of ships and stuff like that. They be coming down and they actually be in the water. But then when you have the night parade or whatever, whatnot, down Ybor, down in Ybor, it's like, I think it's 8th Street or whatever, you know, where all the clubs and stuff is at. You know, they have, you know, like in a regular parade, they have these big ass floats. But these floats, you know, they'll take like, let's say a Greyhound bus or whatever, and they'll turn it into a big ass a ship, you know, like those old ass ships that Columbus and them sailed on. And so the whole thing with this parade is a bunch of these ships just coming down in the parade, you know, and that's what they reenact, and all these pirates and stuff coming over here. All right. So if you can understand what these things are reenacting and stuff like that, you know off rip that this place is like, yo, we living on the land where these where the children of Israel was at. All right. Like looking at this here sign alone, if you didn't even know that you was an Israelite or whatever, whatnot, you should be able to read this here sign and be like, yo, this is where the Israelites were at. You know, you read some of these signs, they'll tell you about certain things about these people, whatever, whatnot. They're not going to tell you directly, whatever, whatnot, but you can put the dots together. You can read up on these people. And I'm going to connect some of these dots. Like I was saying about Hernando de Soto, Hernan Cortez, the Gasparilla Parade, you know, this here sign alone, the area down here in Samoset, Florida, Onico, Florida. These are all heavy areas. You know, they got the Seminole Hard Rock Casino down here. You know, this is a lot of the land where the so-called Seminole Indians dwell at, right here where we at, like right where I'm at. You see what I'm saying? But nevertheless, who are the Seminole Indians? The so-called Seminole Indians are what? The tribe of Reuben. All right. So when you're looking at all these things, these people, they right here in your face the whole time. So like, you know, for our people to be trying to fight and argue that the so-called Native Americans aren't our people, man, look, history itself, the so-called white man is telling you this in your face, man. You're the only people that don't agree with this, all right? So now let me go back to the scriptures. Okay, so this is 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 30. No, Salak. This is 2nd Ezra 13 and 39. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes, like we just read, like we just saw the sign, you know, basically the trail of the lost tribes, right? These are the 10 tribes, you know, which were the so-called lost tribes, all right? And we're going to find out why they would be called the so-called lost tribes. Those are the 10 tribes. This is the mystery being unveiled of where they went, where they would be at, and why they was lost, and all these different things. It's all going to be broke down right here. 2nd Ezra 13 and 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasar the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them away over the waters, so they came into another land. So that's going into what? Our history. When you see, you know, this is why the Southern Kingdom wound up getting fucked up so damn bad. That's why we got fucked up so bad, because we seen the Northern Kingdom go off, and we seen them go into captivity. We seen what the Lord did to them. They went off first, so they wound up catching hell first. We seen that. That's why ours was worse, because it's like, you and your little brother, or you and your older brother, you seen him get in trouble for, let's say, running in the house with his shoes on or something like that, right? But you seen him get his ass beat, but then now you want to go and do the same shit. What you think your parents gonna do? Oh, you seen your brother do it, and you want to do it too? You gonna get it worse than what he gonna get. That's what happened to us, all right? Verse 41. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. Verse 42, that they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. So after the time of their captivity, they decided we was going to leave from around these heathen, because they realized off rip, you know what? Us being around these damn heathens got us fucked up. So we need to leave and separate from them. That was the smartest thing to do. That's what we should have did from the beginning. That's what the Most High said to us. Separate yourselves. Don't be joined together with these damn heathen nations, because you're going to start partaking after the shit that they do. You're going to be like them. So the Northern Kingdom took this to mind, because they went in their captivity. They was like, all right, fuck it. We ain't going to go off no more. We're going to leave from around these people. We're going to go live into our own land, far from these heathen. And we're going to keep our laws, statutes, commandments that the Most High commanded us to. All right. So going back up, it says, verse 41, but they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country. So this is going into the hints to where they went. All right. Yeah, they could have went to a further country, but shit, you can go far from where they was at and still be on the in the Eastern Hemisphere. All right. But the key here says that they would go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. So when you go back onto the eastern side of the globe, all right, Africa, Europe, Asia, there was people always living over in those little areas and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like hell, like when Paul and them was on the scene and stuff like that, they was writing out to the people out there in Asia, Ephesus and stuff like that, Europe and things like that, all those different places. They was already over there. They was definitely already in Africa and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? You know, when we talk about the Zidonians and stuff like that. They was already over in all those different places. Where was the one place where there was where mankind had never dwelt? All right, where was the one place where there was supposedly no people ever living it? All right, that would be on the Western Hemisphere, in the Western side. All right, because why? Well, I'll get to it in verse 46 later on. But nevertheless, over here, when the so-called white man came, Christopher Columbus and them came, you know, part of the story, they was looking for Asia. But when they got here, they said, you know, they wasn't looking for Asia, but they said they was going to go to the new world. They was going to go discover the new world, the new land and things like that. All right. They was talking about the new world where if it's new, nobody was supposed to be over there. All right. Not saying, oh, we're going to go into their land. They already over there. Nah, they going to the new world. All right. Columbus and them came over to the so-called new world, but guess what? They found some people over here. All right. So they was doing the same thing the so-called natives was doing back in that day. They was saying we was going to a new landmass where mankind never dwelt, so we can keep our laws, statutes, commandments. Columbus and them decided they wanted to come to the new world over here to start out on this side of the globe and take all of these resources over here and live from over here, because they had depleted all the shit that was going on over here in Europe. There was no more resources over there. All right. Like this, you can read some accounts how, what's your boy? I think it was DeSoto who came over here. And at the time when they had these little small ass castles and shit, where kings in Europe was living in these small ass little wooden old busted ass castles and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Jake was over here living in big ass palaces and stuff like that. They had a lot of stuff decked out in gold and everything like that. All right. So these damn Edomites wasn't really doing so well, especially in their rulership in different places and stuff like that, man. All right. But then they came over to this new land because they was all depleted of all the things that they had over there. All right. So it says, verse 40, and those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Shalmaneser the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the water, so they came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. First clue, all right? They go into a place where never mankind dwelt. And at that point in time, the only place on the planet Earth where nobody had ever really dwelt like that was over here in the Americas, the Western Hemisphere. All right. It says, verse 42, that they might keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. So they came over here so they could be separated from the heathen. Verse 43, so they entered into the Euphrates by a narrow passage, by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them. All right, just like how Columbus and them say that they basically followed a UFO or a chariot over here. They was led over here, all right, by the chariots, all right, which ultimately was really a sign of the Lord. The Lord actually brought them over here for a certain time. It was all prophesied that they would come over here, all right, and they would do all these different things. But then it's also in the scripture that Northern Kingdom will come over here, all right. But at the end all be all, what the Most High wound up leading them over this way, all right. So it says, for the Most High then showed signs for them, all right, showing them these chariots or whatever, whatnot. They followed after the chariots all the way over here, and held still the floods till they were passed over, all right, because you know, trying to get over here, you had a lot of dangerous waters and choppy seas for you not to be able to get over here. But the Most High, it was all according to prophecy, he, you know, calmed the seas for them to be able to get over here, all right. For through that country there was a great way to go, all right. So he's telling you now about how long it was for you to be able to get here, all right. It says, namely, a year and a half. That same region is called Arsareth, all right? And I believe going into that word Arsareth means new land or something like that. But nevertheless, they came over here. You know, it took them a year and a half by boat to get over here, all right? Now, you know, that's another big clue of to where they went. First of all, they went to a place where mankind never, you know, a place where mankind never dwelt, all right? Telling you it was going to be a land empty. When they would come over here, they wasn't going to meet nobody else. All right, so when the so-called white man came over here, it was only the Native American Indians over here. You didn't have the Native Americans and some Chinese and some Africans and so on. You didn't have all them. It was just the Native Americans that was over here, the so-called Indians. You know, they was the only people that was over here. Now, they had them broken up into their different little different tribes or whatever, whatnot, but they all the same people, you know. They say that you can look this up. They have a map of the United States, you know, just the United States, where they said it was called 100 nations, you know, where they have 50 states here, they had 100 nations, you know. And just because they was broken down into these different tribes don't mean they not the same tribe of people, more or less to say. Just like how here in America, we broke down into different tribes, but we all basically the same people, you know. You could be a New Yorker, you could be a Californian, you could be a Texan or whatever, but you all still Americans, more or less to say. You see what I'm saying? You know, you might have been born in the South. Hey, y'all talking like that. You might be born up north. What's up, son? You know what I'm saying? But at the end all be all, you all still what? Americans, right? Same thing here. All right. So it says, verse 46, dwelt they there unto the latter times, and now when they shall begin to come. So the last clue, All right, it says that what? That they was gonna be living in living over into this land where mankind never dwelt. All right, into a whole new region, in a whole new land. They was gonna be the only people living over there. And it says, and they dwelt there until the latter times, until the end times. We living in the end times right now. All right, and now when they shall begin to come. Who is the day that they shall begin to come? The so-called white man, because the so-called white man also, according to prophecy, was going to have dominion over the whole damn earth. All right. So for him to have that, he would have to conquer the Western Hemisphere. All right. That he's not going to conquer the whole earth, and then the whole Western Hemisphere, the Israelites was going to be free and not up under his oppression. That wouldn't be according to prophecy. All right. So this is how the so-called Native Americans got over here. They got over here by boat, and they would be over into the so-called white man came over here. Christopher Columbus and them came over here. All right. I'm going to grab a couple more precepts, and I want to read an article real fast. Go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50. It says, Jeremiah 50 and 33, thus saith Yahawah, power of hosts, the children of Israel, which is the northern kingdom, and the children of Judah, which are the southern kingdom. All right, so you so-called Latinos, Native Americans, the northern kingdom. You so-called, let's say, the Negroes, you West Indies, and you Haitians, are the so-called, or you the southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah. All right, it says, thus saith Yahawah, power, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. So you have to put this back in perspective. We never went into captivity together at all. At all. The northern, like I said, the northern kingdom wound up going off first. Once the kingdoms was split, they went off first. They went into captivity into Assyria. Then we just read how after the captivity was done in Assyria, they left that whole side of the globe and they came over to the Americas, and they dwelt here into the latter times to when when the Edomites would come over here. So if that's the case, they was over here living not under subjection. You know, they wasn't enslaved after that first captivity. You know, they went under that captivity under the Assyrians, and then they went under captivity under the Edomites right now. All right. But we wasn't with them when that happened. All right. Now, well, the only time that we was enslaved together was when we was born. We was born in Egypt, more or less to say. That's when we started growing as a family. I believe it was 60 souls that went in, but we came out as a bigger nation. All right. And technically, you could say that the whole house of Israel was in, you know, all 12 tribes. We was all in captivity in Egypt, but basically that was our birth. But since then, you know what I'm saying, we had never been in captivity together. Like I said, the northern kingdom went into Syria by themselves. All right. And then after that, they came over to the Americas and they lived over here until the Columbus and them came. All right. The southern kingdom wound up going into Babylonian captivity, Medo-Persian captivity, Grecian captivity, and Roman captivity after all of those different time periods. All right. And then now at the end all be all, we are all in captivity here in America together. All right. This is like the first time beyond, you know, where we was born in Egypt, where the northern and the southern kingdom was both being oppressed at the same time by the same people in the same place. All right. So it says, thus saith Yahawah of hosts, the children of Israel, the northern kingdom, and the children of Judah, the southern kingdom, were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast and refused to let them go. All right. And so, look, that's where we at right now. You know what I'm saying? We in captivity under the so-called white man right now. Not just that, we were scattered into the four corners of the earth because going, you know, this is contrary to popular belief. All right. Going in Deuteronomy 28 and verse 64. All right. This Deuteronomy 28 and 64. And Yahawah shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even to the other. And thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So when you go into the story of like Tonto and what your boy name is, can't think of the other guy's name. But when you think about those stories, those guys was taken from over here over into Europe. They learned how to speak that language, and they was actually brought back over here. So what? They went on the slave ships too, man. All right, so they was scattered, you know, they was brought actually back over here. But nevertheless, that's just one account of one person. All right, but nevertheless, not to say that they wasn't traded in a slave trade beforehand, because there was an actual Native American slave trade. All right, do the math. Christopher Columbus came over here in 1492. All right, the first slave ships, which you so-called Negroes, didn't come over here until like the first couple of them came over here in 1618. They didn't really start picking up to about 1620, 1621, 1622. All right, and that's in your slavery really was popping off between that and want to say maybe like the 1800s, and really they wasn't even shipping slaves over here for that long. But nevertheless, the northern kingdom for, you know, almost about 100 years, they was already being 100 to 200 years, they was already being shipped around the world in these ships. All right, so again, here in America is the place where the northern and the southern kingdom, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you was all in captivity under the so-called white man here. You was all put on these here slave ships, and you was all let me read verse 68. And Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt, or bondage, again with ships. All right. So they wasn't necessarily brought here into America, because they was already here in America, but they was put on those slave ships and brought from America out into the other places of the earth. You know, not just that. You know, there was a lot of so-called Native Americans here on the mainland of America, but then they was brought out to what? The West Indies, Puerto Rico, those little islands like that, Haiti. You know, all those different islands was they was being brought back out there. All right, to those different islands. They didn't naturally live on those damn islands, Jamaica and stuff like that. They didn't actually live there to begin with. That's not their homeland. Puerto Rico, it's not your homeland. You wasn't really there. The so-called white man put you out there. All right, this is you being scattered through the four corners of the earth. You still under these same curses like you so-called Negroes are. All right. Verse 68, and Yahweh shall bring into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So even unto the same day, the so-called Latinos, Native Americans, they still in captivity as well too. Nobody redeemed them. So-called Native Americans are still on reservations and things like that, still being bombarded like the Latinos, and it's just like the Southern Kingdom, these so-called Negroes. All right. So let me go back to the book of Jeremiah. This Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 18. It says, in those days the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given for an inheritance to your fathers. So this is going into what the prophecies at the end all be all, when we're going to wind up being gathered and saved back up again. So the Lord is saying he's going to bring back the northern and the southern kingdom together. He's going to bring us into out of the land of the north, and he's going to give us the land that he gave to our fathers, which is the land of Israel. All right. Let me go back to Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 7. It says, therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh power, that they shall no more say, Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but Yahweh liveth, that brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, talking about here in America, and from all the countries where I had driven them. All right, we scattered into the four corners of the earth, and they should dwell in their own land. So these are the prophecies that hadn't quite fully taken place yet, because we still here in captivity and we not in the land of Israel and salvation yet. But just wanted to bring those out to show you that, look, the northern and the southern kingdom, they're going to be brought back together. They're going to receive salvation. They're going to be drawn and plucked up out of mainly the land of the north, which is here in America, Babylon. All right. And who do you have? You got basically three people here in America. All right. You got Jacob and Esau, right? But you got Esau, the so-called white man, predominantly over here. This is one of the biggest groups of people you have here. All right, like you got Chinese, Japanese, Africans, you got all these people, but these people are all very small and minute comparably to the amount of so-called white people we have here. All right, and then, like I said, you got three types of people here. You got Jacob and Esau, right? You got the Edomites, so-called white man. Then you got Jacob, the northern and the southern kingdom. All right, you got basically you got the southern kingdom, we was brought over here on slave ships, and then everybody else over here is the northern kingdom, all right, from North, Central, and South America, all right? These, the so-called Latinos and all that, it's basically all Jake, you know what I'm saying? So the main three people you have over here is Jacob and Esau, all right? And I keep saying three people because of the northern and the southern kingdom, all right? So nevertheless, these are the people, this is the mainstay where we at. So when you look around, who are the three people, the three players that you have on the field right here? Who gonna be drawn up out of this here land? Now, I can see if there was a bigger population of Japanese and Chinese people and African people here, then maybe so, because this is still the land of the north, the land of Babylon. But because it's you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you fit in all the bills, all the prophecies that the Most High spake of from the beginning times, all right? Now, let me go... So I'm going to read this one more time, and I'm going to actually go and I'm going to read this quick little article. It says, 2 Ezra 13 and 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, with whom Salmanazar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, so they came into another land. And they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might keep their own statutes which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow place of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the floods till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely a year and a half, in the same region is called Arsareth. Then dwelt they there until the latter times, and now when they shall begin to come. All right, so we looking at what? Columbus and them at the time they were coming, and 1492 Columbus sailed the sea blue, right, or however they say it. So 1492 is when they started coming over here. All right, so from the time way back before YAHAWASHI, before the Babylonian captivity, you see what I'm saying? This is when the Northern Kingdom was over here. They was gonna live over here all the way up until the end, until it says they then dwelt they there until the latter times, until the times we living in now. And now when they shall begin to come, when the rest of the world will come back over there and meet and greet them. Because look, they was cut off from the rest of the world, but now everything is being brought over to, being brought to them. They being incorporated right back into the world again. You can't just separate yourself like this and, so on and so forth. You got to go through it as well. All right. So bringing that out as far as, some of the markers of them. All right. And really going back to, this here sign, really, this is not what I was going to grab, but popping back up. But going back into this here sign, hey man, the signs are all here, man. All right, so it's written here in the scriptures. We know about the so-called Native Americans that was over here. There's a mystery of how they got over here. You think they walked the landmass, but it's actually written in the Bible how they was written over here. We got all these different things where they even tell you the trail of the lost tribes. You see what I'm saying? But nevertheless, let me go into this here this guy here. All right, it says Luis de Torres, a Jewish explorer interpreter, crew member on Christopher Columbus' 1492 voyage to the New World. So why do they call it the New World? Because why? Nobody had ever dwelt over there. In their mind, they thought that they knew that somebody was over here, but they trying to come and take over. Like, well, they got all that fresh resources, everything, all right? They was coming over here looking for prosperity and resources, all right? Crew members on the Christopher, and really for what they call manifest destiny, because they knew that, hey, it was for them to, and they knew that this was all prophecy. They was going to take the Israelites in captivity. They knew the Israelites was over here. And what we're about to go into further proves they knew who was over here and how to deal with these people. All right. If you go into war and you got to fight against somebody who got if you find out that they got tanks, if you go to war with somebody, you don't understand your enemy and you trying to roll up on them on foot with your goddamn pistol and these motherfuckers in the tank, your ass is grass. But if you do the reconnaissance and get the information on them, they got tanks, you're going to get something to that can fight fire with fire. You're going to probably fly in with planes and bomb these motherfuckers so they can't hit you. All right. So this is what Columbus did. He armed himself with the tools that was needed to complete this here voyage. So he knew who was over here and he knew how he was going to get over here. All right. And also they have it in some movies where they depict these things where he was like, talking about the signs that he wanted to follow in, but it was more or less a chariot that they wanted to follow in over here. But he also said, look, we're going to find the sign of the prophet Ezra, or they called him Ezra, which Ezra in the regular Bible is the same as Ezra in the Apocrypha. Okay, it's just an extension of the same book. But nevertheless, they was reading in Ezra, which the same thing I just read you about the 10 lost tribes where they was at. And they also knew that they was going to be over it to the time when they was going to come. So they already knew about these different things. All right. It says, Luis de Torres, Jewish explorer and interpreter. First of all, why are they mentioning Jewish? What is Jewish or Jews or any of this stuff got to do with Christopher Columbus, the so-called white man and Native American Indians? All right, you have to put these things in your mind. The so-called white man or the so-called Spaniards, right? They called themselves Spaniards at that time, but really they're not even the Spaniards. We was the Spaniards first. We was in Spain and Portugal. We was the Moors over there. They hijacked us over there first. All right. And, that's why the first slave ships came from Spain and Portugal. All right. So because that was who we were over there first and foremost. Then they hijacked our identity as the Spaniards. Then there's the Europeans, because we was in Europe as well, too. King James was the last king, 1611. You get the 1611 King James Bible. In the 1600s, all right, King James was still sitting on his throne in England. All right. We were still ruling and reigning over at that point in time. But what? This was the end of, the far end of us when the so-called Edomites was going to take full dominion over this here earth. All right, so they knew about these different things. They knew about this here time. But why would he start incorporating so-called Jews and things like that? If he coming over here claiming they trying to find Asia, why wouldn't they bring Asian interpreters over here? Why would they bring Hebrew interpreters over here? All right, because you got to put these dots together. All right, they coming over to this here land. They using the book of Ezra to try to find this here new land. Ezra is a Hebrew Israelite first and foremost. So he talking to the Hebrews. Why would y'all even be dealing in their stuff? All right. It says Luis de Torres was employed by Christopher Columbus as an interpreter on his first voyage, the first voyage. So he was equipped with all the tools that he needed to come over here and deal with the problems that he was going to have. All right. It says his first voyage to the New World. All right. Again, the New World. All right. New to them because they hadn't came over here. They was going to a place where before never mankind dwelt, but they already knew that the Israelites was over here, but it was new to them. All right. Prior to this, de Torres held a position with Juan Chacon, governor of America, a province where there was a large number of Jews. All right. Hey, going back into it, there was a large number of Jews. All right. As a Hebrew interpreter. All right. So how homeboy knew Hebrew. All right. Again, if you coming over to where you think you gonna tell everybody a lie, you trying to find Asia, you made a mistake when you was looking for Asia. Why the fuck would you bring a Hebrew interpreter? Like, they ain't gonna understand the Asian language that they speaking. You would want to bring an Asian interpreter, and there was Asians over there at that point in time. You could have just easily picked up any of them and brought their ass over here. All right, but what you chose to bring Hebrew interpreters over to a land that you claim was supposed to be Asia, right? So that story they tell you they was looking for Asia is a damn lie. They knew exactly what land they was looking for. They knew exactly the people they was looking for, and they knew exactly how to come prepare for these people. All right, so it says as a Hebrew, because he was Jewish. All right, and they say that, oh, homeboy wound up converting to being Jewish, but nevertheless, homeboy might have been an actual Hebrew Israelite. All right, it says because he was Jewish, or actually a Jew. And this was during the era of the Inquisition. It was necessary for him to convert to Catholicism when they was converting everybody, whitewashing everybody, and all the things they did. Which he did. The day before the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria set sail on August 2nd, 1942, the voyage also coincided with the expulsion of all Jews from Spain. See what I'm saying? All the Jews from Spain. So first and foremost, the Jews that was living in Spain would be called the Spaniards at that point in time. All right. But they was expelled from there. We was kicked out of there. This is when, like I was saying, we was the Moors living in Spain. That's why you say, oh, we was the Moors or whatever, whatnot. Yeah, that was us living over there at that point in time under some goddamn Islamic religion. We had a different religion at that time. We was going off, basically. All right. But then we was living over there in Spain. We was the Spaniards. They conquered us over there and took us down. The first ships came from Spain. All right. Then they started going over into Europe and things like that. All right. But see, at the same time, all these things was going on was when what? The diaspora was going on, when the Jews was actually being scattered to the four corners of the earth. All right. Because of that time before that, 70 AD, we were scattered mainly, into Asia and things like that. All right. 70 AD, we was mainly scattered into like the Far East and Asia and all those places. All right. And then throughout a time period from there, we slowly but surely got scattered into Africa. All right. Then up into what right now, the 1400s. All right. Or really not even the 1400s, the 1600s is when we was actually scattered into the four corners of the earth. All right. But before this is when the so-called the Israelites was being scattered from the beginning, starting with the northern kingdom. All right. And then the southern kingdom was starting to be attacked because we was over in Spain. All right. It says because he was versed in Hebrew, Aramaic, Spanish, Portuguese, French, Latin, and some Arabic, Columbus had thought that it would be helpful upon their arrival. All right. Why would this be helpful if you goddamn supposed to be coming to find Asians? All right. That's not the story. That's not the real story. They just lying to you about that. All right. Because they don't want to tell you that they was coming over trying to find the Hebrew Israelites. If you put all this together, they're like, all right, well, y'all found them. What'd y'all do with them? Y'all didn't put them up on a pedestal. You enslaved them. You killed them. All right. Let's read in the Bible who would do this to these people. Then you will find out, okay, it said the Edomites would do this to these people. This is Jacob versus Esau. We now know who the damn devil is. It's so easy to put all these things together. So this is why they wind up changing up all these different names and certain things and hiding this here history. Oh, we was looking for Asia and we stumbled across this here land over here. Oh, these people over here are red people. These people are Asiatic people, whatever, whatnot. All right. So you don't put two and two together. All right. It says, because he was versed in Hebrew and Aramaic, Spanish, Portuguese, French, Latin, and some Arabic, Columbus had thought it would be helpful upon their arrival. Especially useful would be his knowledge of Hebrew and Aramaic, as Columbus fully expected to encounter Asian descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. See, they keep throwing in Asians. The Asians. That's the little lie. They're like, oh, they don't want you to think of these people as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, when clearly they coming over to the land to where the so-called Indians would be at. All right. And then you said that they would be the descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. You have monuments and signs over here in America where they try to preserve these things. I just showed you one where they tell you these are the lost tribes of Israel. The lost tribe, we'll say the lost tribes, and they got a picture of an Indian there. It's an Indian preserved there. All right. Now the word Indian just means savage. All right. They was calling these people savages. All right. So what are these people's real names? All right. And why would you bring Hebrew interpreters over here? Why would these people be keeping, the Passover and some of our high holy days? Why are some of their words? Why is their language the Hebrew language? They wasn't speaking so-called the Indian language. They was speaking Hebrew. All right. When they came over here, that was the language they was speaking. When you hear them talking in the little Indianness, ayah, hey, that's like, when you look at our alphabet, that's our alphabet. AHBAD, what is it? AHBAD, Ka, Sha. That's basically going into our alphabet, putting these names together. What they say, You know, they had the Great Spirit, their God. You know, all the things that they did was the same thing as we did. You know, they had the fringes, their outfits and everything. Same with the so-called Latinos, the so-called Mexicans. They all really the same people, really. Not the same people. They different tribes, but we all the same people, man. There's no difference, all right? But it's clearly here in the history of America, all right? The history of all these different things, and also in the Bible, the landmarks around here all telling you these different things. But our people are still wanting to be blinded that, you know, the Native Americans or these people are somebody different. You know, Israel's going to only be so-called black people. All right. But before black people was even involved in all this stuff going on over here, because this is the 1400s. We didn't come over to the 1600s. All right. So in the 1400s, why was they bringing Hebrews over here or Hebrew interpreters over here to speak to the Native Americans over here? Why the fuck would they even be? Who taught them Hebrew? Who taught the Indians Hebrew? If these motherfuckers was the first people over here, you see what I'm saying? If they was the only people, who taught them Hebrew? How did Hebrew get all the way over here? The oldest known written Hebrew was actually found over here in America, like in Colorado and stuff. They found so many different Hebrew writings and so many Hebrew relics over here in America, and the mounds and the Grand Canyons and shit like that. There's so much different Hebrew. That place I was showing you there, these different mounds and stuff, their burials and different things like that, man. You go and you actually start looking at some of these buildings, you see these markings because they don't understand it. They're not reading it, or they're looking at it, trying to translate it in a different way. They're not even expecting it to be Hebrew. It's Hebrew, like Glenn Beck. They was looking at this one stone. They couldn't figure out what the hell it said because they was looking at the shit upside down. They wasn't even thinking that it would be old ancient Hebrew. They just thought that they couldn't understand it. But then come to find out, they're like, oh shit, wait a minute. Let's turn the block upside down. It's Hebrew. We reading this shit backwards. All right. Well, why the fuck would they be finding Hebrew here in America? All right. Nobody over here was supposed to be speaking Hebrew. They wouldn't even supposed to know about how they would say Jesus and all that. That was all in the East. How the fuck did these people know about this? All right. You got to put all these things together. How do they know about this language, Hebrew? All right, all these years then passed by, they still speaking clear Hebrew. All right, even when YAHAWASHI was on the time, you know, they wrote on the King of the Jews over his head in 3 different languages. All right, Hebrew, Latin, and I believe Greek or something like that. But nevertheless, at that point in time, you see they were speaking different languages at that point in time, right? The New Testament was written in Greek. But what? The Native Americans, even up to that same time, even up to times way after that, they were still speaking what? Hebrew. All right. They were still keeping Hebrew customs, proving the fact that they was what? Hebrews. All right. These are the Israelites. The signs that everything is telling you. All right. The only people that don't want to agree with this is just you and your simple ass mind. Want to be just being a stumbling block. Every Israelite got to look like a so-called black man. All right. We not gonna all look like that. Hey, some Israelites gonna look like goddamn Donald Trump. Some of them gonna look like Kim Jong-un. All right. Some of them gonna look like goddamn Manute Bo or some shit like that. Some of them gonna look like Jackie Chan and shit, man. All right. Well, shit, Mariah Carey. You see what I'm saying? She like a so-called white woman, but she an Israelite. All right. T and Tamara, them twins, they not Israelites. Diana Ross's daughter, Diana Ross's son, they not Israelites. All right. These people are Edomites. All right. Salaki, let me finish this and close out. It says, because he was well versed in Hebrew, Aramaic, Spanish, Portuguese, French, Latin, and some Arabic, Columbus had thought he would be useful upon their arrival. Especially useful would be his knowledge of the Hebrew and Aramaic, as Columbus fully expected. He was fully sure of this. He didn't guess. There was no mistake. He knew who the fuck was over here. All right. It says, as Columbus fully expected to encounter, fuck Asian, but descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. All right. So they know, these so-called white people knew exactly who the fuck is over here. All right. So, after reaching Cuba, Columbus believed that they had arrived in Asia, which again, see, they keep throwing in this Asia shit, Asia, because they, at the end all be all, the Israelites got to be of Asiatic descent. They can't be of, the Native American or the Negro descent. You know, they're going to keep throwing in these stumbling blocks. But like I keep saying, like, Asia is close as fuck to them on the other side. They know what Asians look like. They dealing with them all the damn time. You know, we talk about the Silk Road and stuff like that. That's over there in Asia and stuff like that, man. All right, when Paul was writing out there to Asia and stuff like that, they knew what the Asians was. You know, when you read in Acts chapter 2, there was people that was coming from Asia over there. They knew what the fuck Asians looked like. They knew how to talk to them people and everything, man. All right, so you can't get confused and all this stuff when they keep throwing in these curveballs like Asia and Asiatic and this and that. The point of the matter is, it says Columbus had thought it would be helpful upon their arrival. Especially useful would be his knowledge of the Hebrew and Aramaic, as Columbus fully expected to encounter the descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. That's all that you need to know. Add that back up until when we was reading into the scriptures about how they came over here. They was going to live over into the latter time when they would come. They was going to be waiting over there, waiting on Christopher Columbus to come. Christopher Columbus was going to be waiting on this sign, and he was going to go into the scriptures and find out about them. They all tied together all throughout the Bible. You see what I'm saying? They was basically meant for each other to come across each other. It was just fate. All right. So for anybody else to try to change all that, hey, man, you have to change a whole lot of history for this not to take place, man. You have to change the whole course of history, man. You have to change the fact that the Columbus and them came over here and wanted to dominate the Native American Indians, the Spanish-American Wars and all these different things and all that stuff that transpired after that, then them taking them in captivity, enslaving them, moving them around the rest of the world, all right, then bringing the Negroes over here. None of this would have taken place if they wouldn't even came over here knowing that it was the Israelites he was coming to find. So, again, America wouldn't even be founded if it wasn't for the Israelites. You see what I'm saying? Because it was the Edomites tracking down the Israelites, knowing where the fuck they would be at, because it was written in the Bible that they came over to this here land that you know of as America and found this here land. All right, so the whole fact that you even, not only did the Israelites build up this land, if it wasn't for the Israelites, you wouldn't even came to this land. All right, and this is our land to begin with. Let me grab one more precept and I'm going to close out. Because you have this in the book of Ezekiel chapter 35 where it talks about this, all right, where it says these two countries and these two lands, all right. I think it said in Isaiah, let me get that in Isaiah 14 as well, too. Isaiah 14 and 13, I think. Yep. This is Isaiah 14 and 13. For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. All right. So the mountain or the congregation is a group of people. The mountain of who? The mountain of Israel. And where? In the sides of the north. North what? North America. And where we at right here, right now. The Edomites is saying they're going to rule over the nation of Israel right here. Basically, the main state, the main base here in America. He's going to rule over us in the Americas. All right. The majority of the Northern Kingdom, hell, damn near 90% of the Northern Kingdom is already over here, whether it be in North or Central or South America. All right. All of Central and South America is nothing but the Northern Kingdom. All right. So what? Esau is coming over here reigning over top of all of these different nations. Who's over top of Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, Colombia, Puerto Rico, what do you call it? Haiti, Dominican Republic, all these different places. The so-called white man has got rulership over all these places. Cuba, so-called white man is ruling over all these people, dominating all these people. All right. As according to the scripture, as they would be prophesied about. All right. Now let me go to Ezekiel. I think it's in 35. This is Ezekiel 35 and 10. Because thou hast said these two nations. All right. What two nations? The Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom. All right. Because thou hast said these two nations and these two countries. What two countries? All right. What was the land that they was talking about? All right. Well, obviously the land of Israel. All right. Because the heathen is up in our land over there. All right. But then also here in America. Because why? We just read the account of how the Northern Kingdom came over here. They dwelt in the land where never mankind dwelt before. So this was the land that was the secondary land that was given to them. They was going to live here by themselves for the whole time up until the Edomites came over here. But now the Edomites came over here. It says, because thou hast said these two nations, all right, taking us into captivity, and these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas Yahawah was there. So what? They didn't ran up in the land of Israel and Jerusalem. Now they also over here in America. Now they sitting on these two places, ruling, and even in the world, they ruling the whole planet Earth from what two locations? Israel and America. All right. And both of these places are pretty much the land of Israel. All right. Because why? The Northern Kingdom came over here. Nobody else was over here. They didn't steal this land from nobody. The Lord gave them this here land so they can keep the law, statutes, and commandments. But then the so-called white man stole this here land from them. All right. The Most High gave the land of Israel to us and our forefathers, to our forefathers and to us. All right. But what? The so-called Edomites ran up into that their land. All right. It's Ezekiel 36 and 5, I think. Yep. Therefore, thus saith Yahawah power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea. Now, Idumea is a Greek way of saying Edom. So again, you know this is talking about the Edomites. And what did the Edomites do? Which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with the spiteful monster cast it out as a prey. What did they do? They took the Lord's land. All right. He cast out his land into their own possession. So they took what? The land of Israel and the land of America. All right. And they wound up possessing it with the joy of all their heart. So they live in the land of Israel. Can't nobody tell them shit about that. Same here in America. We the greatest country on the earth. Israel is the second greatest country on the earth. You can't fuck with none of them. You see, they proud to be over here. They think that they're the strongest over here. All right. Let me see. Really, there's a lot of these things we can go into like that. But nevertheless, you know, that was pretty much the point. Let me grab one more. Psalm 79. It says, this is Psalm 79, a psalm of Asaph. O Yahawah, the heathen are coming to thine inheritance. Thy holy temple have they defiled. They have laid Jerusalem on heaps. So see, they came up into our landmass and they wound up taking our heritage and all these different things, man. All right, so this is why you can't so-called readily point out the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans as being the Israelites. But nevertheless, All the signs are everywhere, but it's going to take a certain eye to be able to see these things, all right? Go into the history of Christopher Columbus, where he was looking for, who he brought over here, why he brought these people over here. Look into the Native Americans, their history, their customs they was keeping, their language they was speaking, the religion they had beforehand, all right? Look at some of the landmarks and the signs that they have up here in America nowadays, and these preserves, all right? Look at some of these different tribes they talk about, like the Seminole Indians and things like that, and their etymology, or where their origins, or where they come from, and you'll see all these different things. It all lines up with the scriptures, all right? It's all prophesied. This is how we know who we are. This is how we can say with 100% of the fact that these are who the people are according to the prophecies, all right? Nobody else ever went into a landmass where nobody had ever dwelt on the face of the earth. That's never been recorded in history. Nobody had ever found that, all right? There's only 2 accounts of that in history. One of them was hidden, which we read in 2nd Ezra chapter 13 with the natives coming over here. But the other account was Christopher Columbus. We all know about that. You know, the whole world celebrate that when they found the so-called New World. All right. But nevertheless, you know, Lord willing, that was edifying. You know, Lord willing, he was able to see these things, you know, maybe to cast down some of those strongholds. But Lord willing, he was edified with this here lesson. Lord, until next time, I say, Call Halal Yahawah, Bahashim YAHAWASHI, Bahashim Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity in the 4 corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Until next time, I say, stay strong and shalom.